The moment Tom casually swung his arm, a cold liquid started flowing down my head. It took me a moment to realize I had been doused with beer. A worthless human being. Hurry up and make dinner. Tom's words left me dumbfounded. Oh, you can't make anything decent with that body of yours, he said with a sneer. My fists trembled with anger. Say that after you see this. Huh? I showed him something I had brought from Tom's room. His face visibly contorted immediately. That is. Don't pretend you don't know, I retorted. I couldn't forgive Tom for what he had done. My name is Nancy. I'm 38 years old this year. My husband, Tom, is the same age and we were classmates in college. Though we only started dating 3 years ago. After graduation, we had completely different careers and had lost touch. At that time, I was settled in my career and was thinking about starting to look for a partner. It was then that a college friend introduced me to Tom. We often went to see movies together and talked about all sorts of things. Those times were so enjoyable that we naturally started dating. Tom, being the youngest, looked a bit younger than his age, which I found endearing. And then we got married. I had been living peaceful days, but there was one thing that troubled me. Tom was bad at tidying up and had a habit of hoarding everything. Every time he made a mess, I ended up cleaning it up. Tom would say my bad as the clutter grew again. Just like a little child. Despite this, Tom didn't have any other issues and his kind nature remained unchanged. I think I was happy, even though I always complained about him not tidying up properly. Eventually, we were able to own a small home. My family, who are in the real estate business, happened to own a house and gave it to us at a bargain price. Maybe it's time for kids. Do you want a boy or a girl? We would have such peaceful conversations. It seems like a distant memory now. Everything was going smoothly, unquestionably. Until that day. One day, Tom insisted on seeing a movie that he really wanted to watch. Going to movies was a hobby we both shared even after getting married. It was common for us to go see a movie together. Normally, I would have agreed immediately, but they say a storm is coming this afternoon. I looked outside the window. The sky was already filled with gray clouds. But today is the last day it's showing. It's our last chance. Well, after hesitating, I decided to go see the movie. Little did I know, this decision would change my life forever. The movie was wonderful. I was glad we went to see it, but the problem was what happened afterward. The moment we stepped out of the cinema, we were hit by heavy rain and strong winds. We hurried to the taxi stand near the station. As we quickly walked down the street lined with buildings, suddenly, a sharp sound came from above. Right from above. Looking up, I saw a sign mounted on top of the building that was being peeled off by the wind. And it was about to fall. Watch out! In a split second, I pushed Tom away. The next moment, a tremendous noise erupted and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Apparently, I had been hit by that sign and was injured. I could see the faces of Tom, looking grave, and the nurses and doctors. From their expressions, I had a bad feeling. What the doctor explained was an unbelievable fact. I had been unlucky enough to damage my spine when hit by the falling sign, resulting in paralysis of my lower body. It was something I couldn't accept. Days of anguish and tears followed. Why did this happen to me? Why? I kept asking myself, but no answer came. Time passed even through those days. Tom, my parents from back home, my sister, and friends came to visit often, trying to comfort me. Little by little, I began to find a bit of space in my heart to accept my situation. After several surgeries, except for the functionality of my lower body, I recovered. I was discharged from the hospital. Tom pushed my wheelchair as we went home. I was surprised how difficult it was to live in a normal house with a disability. Everything required asking for help from someone else. I'm sorry, it's all because I insisted on going to the movie. Tom apologized with a face about to cry. It's not your fault, I said, smiling. To get used to reality a bit, I had to do what I could on my own. Still, there were limits, and of course, I had no choice but to quit my job. And I couldn't properly do housework either. In a wheelchair, even minor movements took an excessive amount of time. Tom took over the household chores, trying his best in my stead. As days passed, insurance money came in, and due to the construction company's negligence, compensation was paid. I casually mentioned to Tom what I had been thinking. Can we use this money to make our house wheelchair accessible? It's hard to move around in it as it is. I thought Tom would agree immediately, but... Oh, yeah. I see. His response was hesitant. The uneasy feeling that washed over me wasn't just my imagination. Looking back, if I hadn't ignored that premonition, things might not have gotten as bad as they did. At first, Tom diligently took care of me and did the household chores. But gradually, I felt as if I could see weariness on his face. One time, Tom started speaking wearily. Sorry, Nancy. I'm tired from work. Can we increase the number of times the caregiver comes? Tom had arranged for a caregiver to come in the mornings for assistance since he was at work. But since it wasn't a 24-hour arrangement, there were times I inevitably had to rely on Tom. This included meals and going to the bathroom, among other things. I always felt sorry, yet I ended up depending on Tom too much. Right, thank you for everything. I'll ask to have them come on weekends too. So, we increased the frequency of the caregiver's visits, but as a result, Tom started coming home later and later. I've been busy lately. I already ate dinner, so I'm good. Good night. As soon as he got home, Tom entered the bedroom, looking annoyed. I can make simple meals, but elaborate dishes take time, so I often have to rely on takeout. I was worried that Tom would get tired of eating the same kind of meals. I really wanted to manage some proper cooking. While I was pondering, I fell while trying to get off the wheelchair into the bathroom. Thanks to the renovation, there were handrails in the bathroom, but once I fell, it was difficult to get up by myself. I had no choice but to call out loudly for Tom. Tom! After a while, a sleepy-looking Tom came. Can you help me up? What a pain. What? I was shocked by Tom's muttered response. Tom roughly helped me back into the chair. Here, you're good now. Give me a break. I was just about to go to sleep. I was shocked by Tom's cold way of speaking. This had never happened before. The stress of caring for me must have built up too much for him. A feeling similar to panic took over me, thinking I had to do something about it. I decided I needed to use the caregiver more. But hiring a caregiver isn't free. Worried about the impact on our finances, I checked our bank account balance. There should have been some of this month's disability support left. But almost all the balance was gone. I did the math, but I don't remember spending it on anything special. Maybe I should ask Tom. But since then, Tom's mostly been coming home late at night, saying he's been working overtime or working on weekends. And when he does come home, his attitude has gotten even worse. He snaps at me constantly, making a decent conversation impossible. One of the causes was cleaning up the trash. Tom would leave trash everywhere as usual, but with my limited mobility, it was difficult for me to clean up properly. Why is it so dirty? Tom continued to shower me with cold words. Cleaning is tough. You can move your upper body, right? Living with someone disabled just adds to the workload, it's really tiring. That's why I hate coming home. His harsh words left me speechless. The trash was his mess, to begin with. He used to help clean up, but my body doesn't move as it used to. Shouldn't it be natural for him to do it himself? Feeling frustrated, Tom quickly left the house. I sighed, looking at the messy house. No choice, I'll have to ask the caregiver. I'll do what I can from my wheelchair. As I slowly made progress with the cleaning, one day I noticed something odd. The watch that was here is gone. A fancy watch given to me by my family as a wedding gift was missing. Did I move it somewhere? No, I don't remember doing so. Looking closer, I realized several valuable items were missing. A necklace given to me by my sister for my birthday, a painting I splurged on, and other expensive items. What's going on? With my limited mobility and the daily struggle, I hadn't noticed until now. I tried to search for them with my limited mobility, but they were nowhere to be found. After exhausting all other places, only Tom's room was left. I had a bad feeling. When I opened the door to his room, it was, as expected, filled with trash. A quick search revealed none of the missing items were in his room. Maybe it's just my imagination. As I was about to return to the living room, a piece of paper thrown carelessly on the floor caught my eye. Looking around, there were more scattered about. Perhaps movie ticket stubs? Tom has a habit of not being able to throw them away. But that wasn't it. Picking them up, I was speechless. This is... Late at night, the front door was opened roughly. Tom had come back. Seeing Tom appear in the living room, I was shocked. He was holding a can of beer, his face flushed red. He seemed quite drunk, the smell of alcohol hitting my nose. Wait, were you drinking while walking? What are you doing? Before I could finish my sentence, Tom quickly swung his arm. At that moment, a cold liquid started flowing down my head. It took me a moment to realize I had been doused with beer. A slow, defective human being. Hurry up and make dinner. Tom's words left me dumbfounded. You can't make anything decent with that body of yours. Well, I'm in a bad mood right now, tired from work and then thinking about having to take care of you today. I just can't deal without drinking. Tom continued to hurl abuse as he sat down. We're out of money because you quit your job. Disability support? It's not even that much anyway. Even though he was drunk, it was unbelievable. My fists trembled with anger. Say that after you see this? Huh? I showed him a large number of losing betting tickets I found in Tom's room. Immediately, Tom's face contorted. That is... Tom had gotten back into gambling. The reason he hadn't been coming home was probably because of that. Actually, before meeting me, Tom was obsessed with gambling, and I had cautioned him about it. I suggested movie watching as a hobby we could do together, and since then, he hardly ever gambled. But since I started using a wheelchair, he said he didn't want to walk outside with me and stopped going to movies with me. Instead, his gambling habit seems to have returned. I looked at Tom with contempt. You probably lost again today, and you're drinking to soothe your frustration, aren't you? You barely take care of me and then blame others. Ugh. Struck a nerve, Tom faltered. That's not all, is it? I confronted him with a pawn shop receipt. You've been selling my things without permission, haven't you? Oh. Yes, Tom must have been desperate for money due to gambling, so he had been pawning my belongings. That's why things were missing. Did you think I wouldn't notice because I can hardly move around the house? Between the betting tickets and the receipts, you're terrible at throwing things away. All the evidence is still here. I glared at Tom as I spoke. How much have you wasted on gambling, aren't you ashamed? Finally, Tom showed his true colors. Shut up. We got a hefty sum from the accident compensation, didn't we? I was planning to pour all that money into the casino. But you had to use it for home renovations. I got frustrated because my plans were ruined, so I sold your stuff for money, and when that wasn't enough, I even used your money. What? I was astonished by Tom's brazen admission. That's why my money was dwindling. He claimed to be stressed from caregiving, but selling my belongings and even dipping into my savings was indefensible. What are you saying? That's unimaginable for a human being. I can't do this with you, Tom. That's my line. After saying his piece, Tom retreated to the bedroom. I decided to think about what to do next alone. Divorce seemed the only option. To smooth the process, I'd have to ask my family for help. The sooner, the better. The next morning, I immediately contacted my sister, Emily. Fortunately, it was a day off. Emily and her husband, Ken, came right over. By the time they arrived, Tom was gone, but at this point, I didn't care. I explained the situation to them. I had no idea Tom was such a terrible person. Emily's face twisted in anger as she listened to my story. She's always been a kind sister, supporting me through everything. Even after we both got married, our families continued to interact closely. I didn't know things had gotten that bad. I thought you two were getting along well, especially after the accident. Ken, with a serious expression, murmured. Sorry for the suddenness. I didn't want to worry everyone, so I kept quiet. But I can't take it anymore. Drowning in gambling and selling my stuff, even dipping into my money. I can't forgive that. Despite my raging anger, Emily and Ken advised me to stay calm. Getting heated would only play into the other's hands. We discussed handling the situation calmly from here on out. First, we'll go to the pawn shop and see if we can get back the items that were sold. Thank you, Emily. I'll help too. Here's my office's phone number. Call me if anything comes up. Ken said, pulling out a business card from his breast pocket. It read Ken Smith, director of the law office. Yes, Ken is a lawyer. What Tom did is inexcusable, but spousal embezzlement falls under a category that often gets exempt from criminal charges, frustratingly. So, as it stands, we can't do much. However, if the divorce talks don't progress smoothly, I can offer support. That's tough, not being able to legally reclaim the money, but we'll think of something else. Thank you, Ken. I said, grateful for their support. Having people willing to help really does change how you feel about the situation. I decided to hand over the divorce papers to Tom the next time he showed up. It takes courage to face being alone with my disability, but I refused to be belittled and have my money taken away any longer. I was anxious. But I had reliable family members and a home of my own. I have to take the first step. However, Tom had vanished since that day. Perhaps he had gone back to his parents' house. He didn't answer calls or reply to messages, making it impossible to discuss divorce. As days passed with me holding on to these unresolved feelings, Emily and Ken frequently checked on me. I insisted I was fine, but deep down, I was thankful. I managed to buy back the necklace I gave you as a present. I couldn't retrieve the other items, though. Emily said, handing me the necklace. Really? Even getting this back is a relief. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Wearing the necklace again, I vowed in my heart. To selfishly sell precious memories for gambling is just too cruel. Tom needs to deeply reflect on his actions. One day, not long after, both Emily and Ken were visiting, discussing the stalled divorce and the possibility of taking it to court, when suddenly, Tom barged in with his parents in tow. It's been a while, Nancy. I have something to talk about. Surprisingly, he brought my in-laws with him. Though we hadn't interacted much since our wedding, Tom's parents had always doted on him. I had a bad feeling about this. Emily and Ken instinctively stood in front of me. Let's not stand around, have a seat, Tom. Emily suggested, guiding us to sit in the living room. To cut to the chase, I want a divorce and am asking for your money. What? I was taken aback by his sudden demand. Then, his mother interjected. Since your disability, Tom has been living a caregiver's life, right? So, he had no choice but to gamble for stress relief. In a way, he's been mentally suffering because of the caregiving. So, we were wondering if you could pay him. We were dumbfounded by such absurd reasoning. In reality, we were the ones who should be asking for money. I never thought Tom's parents, whom I considered to be blindly doting, could be this terrible. Truly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm sorry, but that argument won't hold. Ken immediately intervened. Tom, with a defiant look, retorted. Ken, this is a matter between my wife and me. Can we keep outsiders out of it? I'm not an outsider. Nancy is my client. What? Oh. Tom seemed to remember then that Ken was a lawyer. Oops. His realization came too late. I had already consulted Ken about the divorce, and the retainer was paid. Ken's involvement wasn't just a familial courtesy but a professional engagement. Well, if this continues, we'll be heading to divorce mediation. Judges typically consider the standard market rates, and such unreasonable demands are unlikely to be approved. Moreover, you've unlawfully sold Nancy's belongings and misused the funds, which can be proven with receipts. You realize this looks extremely bad in the eyes of a judge, right? Ken explained calmly, leaving Tom at a loss for words. Things moved quickly from there. Tom, grumbling complaints, nevertheless signed the divorce papers. I was surprised when he started talking about money, but it turned out Tom wanted the divorce as well. Once that was decided, things moved quickly. Fine, this is what you want, right? With those parting words, Tom made to leave our house. But I had something I needed to say and stopped him. Wait, Tom. It's not just about the money. You've made so many derogatory comments about my disability. I can't just let that go. Will you take them back? Yeah, my bad. Tom threw the insincere apology my way and quickly left with his parents. Right after that, Emily opened up. Wow, his attitude is just the worst. It's so obvious he's just paying lip service. It can't be helped. Now that the papers are signed, the divorce will proceed. I feel relieved it's over. I thanked Emily and Ken once more. I thought I'd have no more dealings with Tom. But a while later, one day, my phone rang and I hurriedly picked it up. Hello? Nancy. It's me. Tom? What do you want now? I was on guard, wondering why he would call after all this time. Tom began speaking weakly. I've had an accident. What he told me next was shocking. Apparently, Tom had been involved in a traffic accident since we last spoke. Fortunately, he survived, but the injuries from the accident left him paralyzed from the neck down. His parents, who had doted on him so much, couldn't handle the caregiving and had placed Tom in a facility. Having found himself in such a situation, Tom finally understood the terrible things he had done to me and tearfully apologized. I never realized how hard it was. I'm truly sorry for everything. I didn't think about you at all. I'll repay the money I stole, bit by bit, from my disability support. Tom. I was surprised to hear Tom speak so humbly. Only after experiencing such a fate did he seem to understand how arrogant he had been. Tom's words weren't like the half-hearted apologies before, they came from a place of genuine regret. While I had longed for a heartfelt apology, fate's irony in bringing it about this way was bitter. Life is full of unexpected events. Overcoming such adversities, I suppose, is also a necessary part of life. After talking to Tom for a while, I quietly ended the call. Years have passed since then. I still live in this house. The barrier-free renovations have made it comfortable to live in, and I've gradually adapted to living alone. My sister and her husband will soon be moving nearby due to a job transfer, which is reassuring. And there's been good news. I was contacted by my former workplace. With the progression of remote work, they offered me a job I could do from home. While the salary is a bit lower than before, combined with my disability support, it makes for a decent income. And another thing. My hobby of movie watching paid off. While it's difficult to visit cinemas in a wheelchair, recent streaming services have made it possible to enjoy movies from home. I've been diligently writing reviews on my blog, which caught the attention of a publishing house, leading to a book deal. I was overjoyed. After becoming disabled, my life changed drastically, and I had despaired over my misfortune. But not all experiences have been bad. I'm glad I didn't give up and kept trying, even just a little at a time. Yes, with a bit of ingenuity and courage, even someone with a disability like me can find things they can do. Never giving up hope is essential. With this in mind, I vow to continue living positively.